Hello, my name is Jeffrey Castano, and I will be giving a presentation I would like to call The Fear of Police Brutality. All right, let's get started. So, a brief overview. So, unfortunately, in the United States, a major problem is police brutality. Multiple cases around the nation have been reported where inappropriate judgments and excessive force, as well as inappropriate firing of weapons, have been reported. The misuse of weapons and excessive force is the main problem in the police officers in the United States. Victims of police brutality are sometimes left with lifetime trauma, and as well, their loved ones, such as families and friends, are always affected by this. Society, unfortunately, is losing trust and the feeling of protection from police officers. They no longer have the perspective of the police officers guiding them through the laws and protecting them from criminals. They often see them as something that they have to avoid because they might actually get hurt or unfortunately get killed by police officers. And these police agencies sometimes have weak policies and insufficient policies, and they are not creating deterrence in misconduct towards police officers. Mainly, they're abusing their powers because of the lack of policies in the states. They have no deterrence, and very few policies are not creating what they need in order to stop this police brutality from exponentially growing. Police officers deal with an immense number of difficult cases on a daily basis. However, they need to be ready and have a mindset overall of the strategies to use while dealing with an individual who might be committing a crime or not. A police officer's job is extremely difficult, especially when there is weapons involved, and they need to have the right mindset and the right judgment to see what type of force and what type of weapons they do need to use in order to detain the person or deter the person from creating the crime. Often we hear that police officers are giving the excuse of that they use that force because they fear for their lives. This is a very weak excuse for police officers to use because they don't really have a fear for their life if they don't have a concrete proof that the potential criminal was indeed going to harm them or any persons around them. So, the George Floyd case. This case was a very controversial case in the United States, which caused a lot of awakening from the United States and states as well. This case was a killing while being detained, which George Floyd was on the floor, unfortunately, for 9.5 minutes. And a police officer had his knees on top of him, which caused excessive force of use and Floyd's death. This case was a major turning point in the United States for policy reformation. After this case, many states decided to create different policies that limit and deter police officers from creating certain excessive force or having a database where they are recorded and seeing which type of force they use, and it will leave a paper trail actually, where if they are involved in any other situation and they need to be investigated, they will be recorded and warnings will be given. The Brennan Center states that Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New York, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington created policies that they're required when a use of force to be reported to the police agency. The policy set by the Department of Justice. A very big law that actually protects the victims of police brutality is called the Under Color of Law. This law protects victims of police brutality from crimes such as excessive force, sexual assault, intentional false arrest, theft, or intentional fabrication of evidence resulting in loss of liberty. This is meaning that an essential policy that was set by the Department of Justice states that the crime is committed when an individual acting under color of law to deprive someone of any rights protected by the Constitution or U.S. law. So now we're going to talk about some statistics that will support the point that the U.S. does have an exponential growth in killings by police officers, which include also discrimination towards gender, race, and ethnicity. So some US data collection will be that a police violence report in 2021 reported that not only 11 officers were charged with crime out of the 1,134 killings in 2001. Out of the 1,134, officers were identified in 434 cases. And from this, they found that 16 of these officers had been involved in shootings or killings in an individual before. This shows that officers usually who have killed before or have shot someone before will often commit a second or third shooting or killing, which could result in a misconduct and an unnecessary killing or shooting of a persons. A reporting from the PNAS also states that from 2013 to 2018, 52 of every 100,000 men and boys in the US were killed by police use of force, rather than 3 out of every 100,000 women. This shows that there is a discrimination towards women and men when it comes to the force and the use of weapons in police officers. Unfortunately, mostly of these killings were also African American. To summarize it all, police brutality and the lack of strong policies in police agencies are not assisting in solving the controversial issue. If misconduct continues, an increase in fear, death, and damaged loved ones will continue to arise from the actions taken towards the victims. And a case such as George Floyd should not cost a life to take reform in the United States. Race, gender, ethnicity should never be a determining factor of the use of force and weapons in any case. Police officers should never use it as judgment, should never use it to determine if they should take action in firing their weapons or putting the persons in a chokehold. None of this should be taken into consideration. It is all in what the specifics of the case is. And lastly, a major concern should be in place with police brutality in the United States, and a stronger federally set policy standard should be placed to target police officers who are not worthy of serving and protecting citizens in the United States. So for my policy recommendation, I would put a detailed standard policy set by the federal government. A policy that required police officers to take a rigorous exam of difficult and common cases that they may encounter if they were in a field. Real-world tests will ensure better understanding of the future police officer's mindset towards handling cases where they can use wrong judgments. So these tests will actually put the police officers in this real-world problem where they will be seen by their professors or their higher ups, where they see what kind of judgment they used and how they would use their force or firing of weapons in that case. An important policy that should follow this examination is the limitation of one attempt to take the exam. This is because when a student is given multiple chances in an exam in any given situation, is seen that the student will always find a way to pass the exam. The exam should be limited by a single attempt, and this will truly show that the student is worthy of becoming a police officer, joining the agency, and going on the field and using the correct judgments that is needed. These policies will prevent future police brutality cases and will assist in lowering the number of killings by police by excessive use of force and weapons. Alrighty, these are my references for my research. Thank you so much. My name is Jeffrey Castano, and I hope you enjoyed.